All right. Good morning. Good afternoon, everybody. I just want to say thank you for joining us. It's 12 o'clock here on the East Coast, 9 o'clock Pacific time if you're up early to catch this webinar on accessibility. I want to thank you for being here. Actually, everyone, thank you for being here. We're going to be talking about a very important topic today on website accessibility. And I think most of our attendees here have either had some concerns about it or questions about it in the past. And I've invited Raphael Glantz from a company called Accessability to join us today to talk about website accessibility, what it means, why it's important, what the risks are if your websites are not accessible, and basically kind of guide us through this new and interesting time for all of us website owners. Just some housekeeping things. We are recording this webinar. I will be sending out a link if you're not able to stay through the entire meeting, or you want to share this with some other folks in your office or your leadership. I encourage you to do that. So once the webinar is done processing, I will send that email out to all of the attendees. We will be taking questions throughout. So there is a question and answer section at the bottom of your window here. If you have any questions for myself or for Rafi as he goes through the content here, certainly ask those and we'll be sure to get you those answers today. So Raphael, how are you doing today?
I'm great. I have no complaints just yet, but I guess we'll see how this one goes.
It's going to go really good. So just to give you some background, the attendees that are on our call today are website owners that we've either worked with in the past doing a website for. There may or may not be current customers. We may or may not be hosting their website. But I know this content and this topic is really important. So I pretty much invited everybody that we've done any website work in the past 21 years to this call, because I think it's something that's really important. You know, in the state of Florida, there are some attorneys right now that are sending out demand letters and putting some pretty big threats out there on website accessibility. And it's a hot topic for us today. So that's the reason why I invited Rafe. He works for a company called Accessability, and their vision is to get the whole world, the whole internet, accessible to people with disabilities. And I'll kind of let you take it from here. I'll monitor the chat and questions, and I'll jump in if we have some questions that come in that we can get your assistance on.
Sounds like a plan. Thanks a lot, Ken.
Perfect.
So first things first, everybody. Very nice to meet you. My name is Rafi. I'm going to share my screen now. And if, Ken, you could just let me know when you see the handsome gentleman and the Accessibility.
Yeah, I can see it. Perfect.
Victory is mine. Okay. So now we can start the presentation for real. So I'm here today to talk to you about accessibility, why it matters, how to achieve it, and a lot more. But before we get started, let's just take a small step back and think about why this issue matters. Particularly right now in coronavirus time, people with disabilities have it harder than most. In fact, many people with disabilities are considered more vulnerable to corona. So in addition to their disability, they're locked inside. And it's hard enough for a blind person or motor impaired person to shop in a supermarket physically. And now that they're effectively prevented from going in person, they're reliant on the internet to fulfill these kind of basic needs. Unfortunately, the vast majority of websites are nowhere near accessible to them. I mean, imagine seeing somebody with a disability outside your store and then locking the door so they can't come in. That is exactly what's going on 98% of business websites in the United States today. We're here to help and every business ensure that regardless of how long someone has a disability or what that disability is, they can shop at your store. So first things first, what is web accessibility? Web accessibility is a simple set of rules, behaviors, code standards, and design guidelines created by the W3C and called the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, or WCAG 2.1. The WCAG 2.1 is basically a 1,000-page guidebook explaining what accessible websites look and feel like to people with disabilities, and it's the only internationally recognized set of guidelines that does that. By the way, according to the CDC, 26% of American adults are living with a disability, so it may be a bigger issue than you initially thought. That 26% spans pretty much any disability you could name, anything from full blindness to cognitive disabilities. And that being the case, the WCAG 2.1 at the AA level and web accessibility regulations have been adopted by governments worldwide in legislations like ADA Title III, Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act, and EN 301549 over in Europe, and many others. Now, as you're probably aware, ADA compliance lawsuits in particular are on the rise. In fact, 2019 more than tripled 2018, the number of papers served. It's absolutely ridiculous. And we at Accessibility have amicably resolved over 2,000 demand letters for our clients in the last 18 months alone. Not a single client has received a lawsuit after installing Accessability, as a matter of fact. These papers are usually demand letters, but they can be full-on lawsuits. Whichever you receive, it's not a fun experience. In general, there's going to be a settlement request in the 5 figures, which even if you paid it, wouldn't protect you from future litigation. If an Accessability licensee receives a demand letter and contacts us for assistance, we go through a simple process. First, we do a compliance audit along with 2 scans, ACE and WAVE. We use 2 scans because ACE is our own, so a third-party scanner concurring with our results is an added assurance. We'll then provide our accessibility statement along with our suggested response, which is a form letter that we've used to very, very good effect. We'll include with this your purchase invoice so you can prove you purchased Accessability, a compliance overview which explains to the other party how our tool functions and so on, and a failures request master. The failures request master is a spreadsheet where a complainant can log and document specific accessibility failures or holes and request a review of them. In the vast majority of cases, our licensees don't even receive a response to the suggested response because the lawyer who sent that letter knows that we're compliant, and in the vast majority of cases, they're either looking for you to become compliant or they want a settlement, and you're already compliant, they're not getting a settlement. Many of these lawsuits and demands are sent after only a basic website scan as well. So that can be very frustrating for people that this person didn't even check your website completely before sending you a demand letter. Even so, the law is on their side. The only solution is compliance with that law. And the best way forward is to take proactive steps to make sure that everyone can access your digital assets. So there's a few different options to do that today. You've either got plugins like UserWay, for instance, that fulfill around 20% max of the WCAG requirements. Or you have manual services that can comply fully, but they're not an option for most businesses because of the high costs. You're looking at $10,000, $15,000 conservatively per year per domain. Long period of remediation, 6 weeks or more, and then ongoing maintenance, which is the real problem. When you look at a plugin without AI, it can really only change basic things on your website, like fonts or colors. And while that's nice, it just doesn't address the needs of blind people or those with motor impairments. That type of plugin is actually used by some lawyers as a targeting mechanism, finding sites with the tool and serving them suits because they know that that tool is insufficient. Those lawsuits can be really expensive. Again, average settlement costs in the high 5 figures. I was, before Corona, and this is just a little bit aside from the presentation, I was giving a presentation in Las Vegas, and I was interrupted, positive interruption, by a gentleman who had to share that his close friend owned 60 locations of loan operations within accessible websites and ended up paying $10,000 per location, so $600,000 to settle an ADA claim against those websites. So it can happen to anyone, and it does not stop. Manual remediation can provide complete compliance. The problem there is in cost, both time and money. So manual remediation is by definition manual. It requires human developers to have access to your source code. Then they need to analyze all of it, make necessary adjustments, and continue to do so every day you have a website. Any update at all, even if it's just a blog post, you need more accessibility work. For that reason, many businesses that take on manual accessibility projects end up with incomplete compliance. And that situation where you have either a cheap plugin or a free plugin or a very expensive manual solution left 99% of American businesses without a viable solution, making them both easy targets for lawsuits and cutting off a serious number of potential customers from those businesses. Bottom line, there's no business owner that doesn't want to be accessible and sell to everybody, but if they don't have a viable way to make that happen, they're not going to. So that's why we created Accessability. Accessability is an AI-powered machine learning software, the first simple, immediate, affordable solution that achieves worldwide compliance. Using AI, we automated the whole process, so we cut costs to achieve a win-win situation for small businesses and for people with disabilities who, again, really just want equal access to the internet. We worked hand in glove with leading experts in assistive technology for more than 2 years to develop Accessability. One of those experts is a brilliant blind developer on the JAWS team. This guy can type code faster than the screen reader can read the code back to him while he's listening to music and still not make any mistakes. And I can't even type that fast. So it's very, very impressive to see that kind of thing, and even more encouraging to be able to help people like that access every website and not just the ones that they build. So JAWS is also the most popular screen reader in the world, and it's mentioned in 99% of lawsuits. So it's very important for us to continue collaborating with people like this that have that kind of in-depth knowledge about those systems. This slide here just shows a little bit about our recent milestones and partnerships. Specifically, we had a recent $12 million investment round with K1 Investment Management. And we have a very strong strategic partnership with DigitalOcean. DigitalOcean in particular is important because they help us provide the highest level of hosting and security that we possibly can. Today, we've firmly established ourselves as the leaders in the US market in complete compliance. We have over 40,000 domains using our tool. These range from the smallest Main Street stores to major enterprises. What I like to say is whether you're Burger King or Burger Joint on the corner, you get exactly the same high quality service from us at exactly the same price. And I can say that because we do serve Burger King. The logo isn't here anymore. And we do have Burger Joints. So it's in all 40,000 of these websites will get that litigation support package that we discussed in the event of legal action. So just to recap, that's a compliance audit with 2 scans, ACE and WAVE. So one is ours, one is not. Then we provide the accessibility statement that you have already. That's a compliance requirement with our suggested response, purchase invoice, compliance overview, failures request master so that they can let us know what issues they perceive are happening. And that's it. And again, the vast majority of our clients don't even receive a response to that form letter that we give you. Now, implementing the solution is super simple as well. Since we're an AI company, we tried to automate the process to the greatest degree possible. So if you'd like to set everything up yourself, you absolutely can. That being said, let's go through it all here too. So the first step is to install our single line of JavaScript code to your website, which should take no longer than 5 minutes. We've got step-by-step instructions for pretty much every CMS you can imagine, so no need to worry on that. At that point, your website should already display our accessibility interface, and that's 30% or so of the needed compliance right there. At the same time, our AI kicks in, and within 48 hours, it's all finished. It's generally much less than 48 hours, but some websites are 10 million pages, some websites are 10 pages. The moment that you are compliant, you'll receive the statement of accessibility via email. Again, that can be any time up to 48 hours. The moment that you receive that statement of accessibility, something I call the shot clock starts. Every 24 hours or every update, whichever comes first, we're going to do a full and complete scan of that website and remediation to make sure that everything maintains the highest level of compliance and that statement of accessibility that we gave you is still valid. Ultimately, after the installation, you can just forget about compliance. Accessibility is very much set it and forget it. Now for a couple of specifics on features, we achieve compliance by leveraging 2 components. So the first is our accessibility interface, and that's responsible for handling the UI, design, and cognitive related adjustments. This interface is also fully customizable, and it can adapt to your website's design in just a few clicks. The second is our AI machine learning powered process. It handles keyboard navigation adjustments for the motor impaired and for blind people screen readers. Screen readers is software used by blind people to operate computers and websites, and it's installed directly on the operating system. So they need to use it from the moment that they turn on their computer. It's not something that you can just toggle on an interface because, of course, somebody who needs that can't see it to toggle it. We handle all on-site aspects using a contextual understanding engine, and it's responsible for remediating menus, drop-downs, pop-ups, forms, icons, buttons, and everything else. It applies the appropriate ARIA attributes and website behaviors so that people can use it. To automatically provide alternative text for images, alt tags, we use Iris and OCR technologies to scan and learn the objects as well as the text that's embedded in the image and write it down as an alt. I like to say we took a robot and we taught it to look at pictures and write down what's in the picture, and the robot never sleeps and you don't have to pay it. And that's a big part of why we're able to offer what we offer. By the way, everything I mentioned is fully supported in 14 different languages. As you can see here, we have a customizable interface and everything is addressed very, very simply and easily. So you can match your website design as much as you need to. This is our pricing. It's affordable and all-inclusive. It's completely based on page count, not based on traffic or anything else. We think that this is the most fair way to price. And again, most websites do fall in the standard category. You'll receive monthly complete compliance audits, again, to make sure you're always at the highest level. So we're checking every 24 hours, every update, and every month. We have a whole bunch of testimonials here. There's a lot more testimonials on our website. We also have them on our YouTube. And there are some from people with disabilities, from partners, from customers who've used Accessibility to fight lawsuits, all of that kind of thing. Now, that's pretty much the end of this. Unless we want to ask any burning questions, Ken, I think we're going to move into the live demonstration. What do you think?
Well, I think that's great. It's good information so far. I think the live demonstration will bring some light into what, accessibility means for different folks that are visiting the website. The biggest question that I get all the time is it's usually a 1-line email and it says, is my website ADA compliant? And
Yes.
I feel like I can't answer that question because the reality is I don't know that any website is quote unquote ADA compliant unless they have these tools in place. So even if we did the most manual process and built the website to, to the letter of
Mhm.
they're not, are they laws or are they
Well,
guidelines?
that's a really good point. Let's dive into that for a second because they're not they are and they aren't. So in a nutshell, you have Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act, which is relating to government agencies and their direct contractors, and that does specifically refer to the WCAG in the letter of the law. It says you must comply with the WCAG. The ADA, on the other hand, does not. And in 2018, after many lawsuits were filed, the DOJ released, Department of Justice, released a ruling stating that they believe that all business websites are considered places of public accommodations and therefore must cater to people with disabilities. The problem is the letter of the law in the ADA says you must make a reasonable effort to do that. And that is a nebulous term. We're not a fan of that. We work with multiple disability-focused nonprofits in the United States, in the DC area, some of them in New York, to try and bring some influence to bear to say, hey, we need very clear rules on what is and what is not accessible so that we can prove compliance very easily. Now, at this point, it's beneficial for us that it's a little bit murky because our system is more flexible and versatile than I believe anyone else's, particularly a manual system, and it enables accessibility on demand. So it's physically impossible to design a website that is accessible to everyone out of the box because some people have different visual problems. Some people can only see certain colors. So it's just not possible. You have to have some kind of differentiation in there. And nobody can possibly argue that accessibility is not a reasonable effort, particularly with our litigation process, which we go through. So we say, if you've found a problem, there's something wrong with the website, let us know. We're on it. We want to fix it. We want everything to be compliant. But in our minds, the greatest test as to whether your website is compliant is not necessarily even our ACE scanner. It's get a screen reader, put on a blindfold, and if you can use this website, or if somebody with a disability can use this website, it is usable. That is the end-all, be-all of accessibility, in our opinion.
And you mentioned something that was interesting to me, this accessibility statement. Is that something that is a requirement or a nice to have? What is an accessibility statement, and how does that help someone, a website?
So an accessibility statement is a compliance requirement, and it goes into depth about what we've done to change the website, what our tool does, and so on. It's not quite as detailed as the compliance overview, which has specific instructions on how to work every part of Accessibility. But the requirement is basically that you inform everybody this website is accessible or this website is not accessible. We're working to make it accessible. And this is how it's been accessible. These are the things that we've changed. In general, when you send that to somebody who has a complaint about your website accessibility, that complaint goes away.
Okay. And is that something that everyone should post on their website? Like, is that publicly available, an accessibility statement?
So yes, and you'll see that also when I demonstrate the tool. It's inside of our tool in two separate places, so you can't miss it.
Okay, cool. And then the other question we have over here is, okay, so a lot of our customers and clients are real estate agents, and some of the rules that you showed there were like ADA and 508s and all those other kind of things. How does this relate to like any fair housing or other rules that require accessibility on a website?
It doesn't have an impact because any business now needs to be compliant regardless of whether they're dealing with fair housing.
And I think we might have lost your audio there, Rafik. Can you hear me?
Right now?
Yep. There we
Hello?
go. Yeah. So
Okay.
you were saying it doesn't have much of an impact because ADA really kind of is an umbrella to that, or?
So Section 508 refers directly to the WCAG 2.1, and we comply beyond the WCAG 2.1 at the AA level. Many of our aspects of accessibility are actually at the AAA level, which is not required. So we are very, very, very confident in that part of the compliance. The ADA is the only question where it's murky, specifically because the language, the letter of the law is not that clear. If it did refer to the WCAG, that set of guidelines, then great. The good news is on that, though, to give a little bit more reassurance, is that every single ruling that we've seen regarding web accessibility has asked the loser of the case, the website, to become compliant according to the WCAG.
Okay.
And so there just is no other set of guidelines for this.
Okay. Very good. Cool. Well, let's see this in action, like what it does to a website.
Let's do it. Okay. Please let me know when you can see new summer collection.
Yep, got it.
Victory is mine. Okay. So first thing you might notice, if you've seen Accessibility before, our icon is a little bit different here. That's by design. We have 20 different icons that we offer. Some people just like different icons. So to start off, one of the things that you'll notice immediately are fonts. Some fonts are less readable to different people. So readable font switches the font to the default on the person's computer. We assume that they can read that one. We can emphasize titles and links just by drawing little circles around them, make them more obvious. You can magnify text. We have a stop animations button that's actually super important because animations like this, or even GIFs, or GIFs, however you prefer to say it, can be deadly to people with epilepsy. So you have to be able to stop those immediately on entering a website. You can invert all the colors, and you can see that affects images as well. Do a dark contrast, a high contrast, high saturation, whatever needs to be done, you can do that. Once you can change the cursor to larger or smaller in different colors, and then reset settings to go back to the standard. One thing that's really important about reset settings is we'll remember your settings on the same website for the same session or for the same user using local storage on your browser. So we're not going to affect any kind of compliance, CCPA or otherwise, but we store those settings only because if you have a significant disability, you don't want to be resetting all of these settings each time you're coming back into our system. So a few more things on the front end. This is the statement of accessibility right here at the bottom right where it says statement. You also have it up here at the top. We have 14 different languages that you can choose from up here. The online dictionary is really important for people aging into disabilities like Alzheimer's. They may have forgotten what Black Friday is, so now they're going to understand that they're going to get a discount. We have a virtual keyboard that'll pop up, and that way you don't have to use the physical keyboard. Some people have specific color blindnesses, so we can change the text colors to specific colors. And that is pretty much it for the front end. One last thing here is we have a feedback button. This is specifically for accessibility related issues. If you have a different problem, we can forward you that, but generally we do tell them that we ignore it. And I can tell you, we work with several candy stores in New York. We get 1 or 2 messages a day about how this candy, that candy isn't any good. We're not addressing those. We're dealing with accessibility here. So that's pretty much it for the front side. I'm going to reset the settings, and I'm going to approach this now as if I'm somebody who's either blind or significantly motor impaired so that I can't navigate with a mouse or anything else. So the moment that I enter this website, because if I'm blind, I have a screen reader active from the moment I turn on my computer. When I enter this website, I get a voice note saying, "Hi, you've entered an accessible website. Please hit Alt-1 to turn on accessible mode." So I'm going to hit Alt-1 now. And as you can see, it pops up, accessibility adjustments are saved. To open the quick navigation menu, hit Alt-1 at any time. So I'm going to do that now. And this quick navigation menu is something that our contextual understanding AI actually creates from its understanding of the page to make it simpler to navigate through everything, just to all of the titles. But I'm going to tab and skip through that and tab through the rest of this. One thing that's very, very important is that these drop downs open automatically and that you're able to open pop-ups, and not just open pop-ups, but be told that you've opened a pop-up. As you can see on the bottom right here, pop-up panel, playing to screen readers, press escape to close, navigate with tab. So I can navigate through it, I can escape out of it if I need to, and then continue navigating throughout the system. The reason I bring that particular part up is because Accessibility, we have done a big research paper with literally 10 million web pages. And over 90% of those web pages did not have accessible pop-ups. They did not have accessible field forms. And that kind of infrastructure is what really prevents somebody with a disability from buying something from you. So they might get onto your website, they might be able to find a few things and find what they want, and then they may get themselves into a situation where they can't get out of this pop-up because they don't know that they're in it, but they have to restart their computer just to leave your website. That's not a situation anybody wants to be in. So one other thing that we do, aside from changing the tab order and making it possible to navigate completely using your keyboard is we add alt text to images automatically. So let's take this image, for example. If I inspect it, there's absolutely no alternative text there whatsoever. It's completely empty. So now I'm going to hit Alt-1 and turn on accessible mode again for the screen readers. So we're adding that information there. And I'm going to inspect this image again. And now I get image contains woman fashion pants portrait. In this one, I get denim pants, casual fashion wear. In this one, I get, let's see, sale, Black Friday sale, image contains illustration design. So these are the alt texts that we're providing automatically with AI. All of this is happening only on this session. So Accessibility itself, this whole tool, all of the changes that are being made only on a specific user's session. We're never permanently changing your source code, and there should never be any kind of performance impact on your website. Accessibility loads asynchronously after the page has been fully loaded. So there's no performance impact, no load time impact, nothing like that. In fact, you should see a little bit of a bump in your SEO scores, because when people with disabilities access a website that is accessible, they tend to spend longer on that website. I think that's pretty much it for the presentation. Please let me know, Ken, if you think I forgot something, and I'd love to answer some more questions.
Yeah, well, let's talk about not having this tool. So for those folks that are looking to do manual compliance or expecting that, us or their web development company is going to make their website compliant, it's missing all of those things, like changing the fonts and adjusting the colors and, colorblind replacement. So what level of compliance can you actually achieve if you don't have a tool like that?
If you're trying to do everything manually, in my opinion, you're never going to get beyond 80 or 85% compliant. Now, will that pass in a court of law? Look, if you get up there and you have a good lawyer, who of course you have to pay, and then you explain, look, I had 2 developers working hours and hours and hours. We've made a reasonable effort, but it's too much. You might get away with it, but you're still going to court. And at the end of the day, you're not compliant completely to customers. You're locking out those people with disabilities. And it's much, much, much simpler, easier, faster to go with an AI solution that can just take care of it and set it and forget it. Because let's be blunt here, no business owner really wants to think about accessibility all day. They need to focus on their business. This is a compliance thing that we want to get it out of the way, make sure that we absolutely can serve this community. They deserve service just like anyone else. And, it's morally wrong not to serve them. But beyond that, if we're ending up paying $25,000 a year for manual compliance, the business is going to go under. I mean, one of the first people I spoke to over a year ago in this job was a pizzeria owner. And he told me, honestly, look, I've been looking to become compliant. I got a lawsuit, but they want $10,000 a year. I can't afford $10,000 a year. We will go out of business. And that's why we're so happy to be able to offer Accessibility, because we make it possible for small businesses to become compliant and do the right thing.
Okay. Now you mentioned installation, and I think it was pretty simple. There were a couple of steps to do that. Anybody who's a customer of ours and we're hosting your website, we're happy to install this for you at no charge. I mean, if you decide to go with Accessibility, you have the costs to them, but we're not going to have any development costs to put Accessibility onto your website. As Rafi said, it's pretty simple to do, and we're happy to do that for you. I know that there's a trial. Anyone who wants that, can we put the trial on their website and they can see what this tool actually does on their website?
Absolutely. Let me show you guys our website for a second. Or you know what, even before that, let me show you ACE, because ACE is something that everyone here can use completely free of charge to test your own website accessibility and understand exactly where you stand. It may be that you're better off than you thought. It may be the opposite. So all you have to do is type in your URL here and click Get Results, and you'll get a 10 to 15 page PDF report with specific code snippets and all other kinds of information telling you where you stand. But let's go over to accessibility.com, and I'll show you a little bit about how the installation works and just how easy it is to customize. Despite the fact that Ken will probably be handling most of that, it is a pretty simple process. It's good to see. So my account is going to look a little bit different, but that's okay. We go over to installation, and you have 2 options. You have a quick and basic installation and advanced and customized. Quick and basic gives you exactly this interface. Accessibility blue with this particular wheelchair gentleman with a laptop, and Accessibility branding, web accessibility solution by Accessibility. So if you want, though, you can do whatever kind of customization you like here. Obviously, every website has different color themes. You can change the color themes. If you want to have a slightly different trigger button, you can have a different trigger button. You can change how it appears on mobile. You can change what side it appears, because some people have a chat box on their website in the same place. So we made it very easy to do whatever adjustments you need to do. And also we have a great support team that answers all questions very, very quickly. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the installation. Any website that you add is automatically on a 7-day trial. And then from there, you're welcome to contact either Ken or, of course, Accessibility's support section. We have a great live website chat as well right here. And everybody is always happy to answer your questions.
Okay. Now, if someone does put the trial on the website, what should they expect as far as like the website coming into compliance? Like, does that happen automatically? Are they going to get a big list of things that they need to do? What's the next step after they put it on their website?
After it's on their website and it's either the trial is active or it's paid, there's nothing else they have to do. Everything is automatic. You will get what you'll know that you're fully compliant when you get the statement of accessibility from us by email. And then that's it. It's a set it and forget it tool. That's the whole point. You're welcome to touch base with us whenever you'd like. You will get a monthly compliance report to reassure you, but there's absolutely no manual actions that you need to take after the installation. That is how we design the tool, because we realize that, time costs money too.
Yeah. And I think most of our customers anyway, they have a website to bring them leads and to help drive credibility in their business, but they're not focused on that on a daily basis. We have some pretty avid users that are blogging, weekly or some even daily, but for the most part, the website is an online tool for them, an online business card, and they don't necessarily log into the website on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. They just, operate their business, and the website is, operating in the background. So not having to log in and think about it is something I think is important.
Absolutely.
All right. Any other questions here? Let me look through the chat and see if we've got them all. If you have any questions, feel free to jump in the chat there. And if you want, in the questions and answer, just type your domain name into the questions and answers if you want me to put the trial on your website. So just put your domain name in there and I will load the trial of Accessibility onto your website. If once that trial's on there, Rafi, what happens if they don't continue? Does it just fall off, or?
Yeah, it just expires.
Okay.
There's no kind of obligation or anything. You can purchase the full version before your trial expires if you'd like, but there's absolutely no obligation.
Okay. So just let me know if you want me to install the trial version on your website. We'll do that, like I said, at no charge. So they'll get an accessibility statement and all that kind of stuff. They'll know that their website is in compliance within a day or two, depending on how many pages they have.
Yeah. A lot of them, it's under 12 hours, but we say 48 because some websites are bigger, some websites take longer. 48 is a good number.
Okay, perfect. All right. Any other advice for the folks that we have on the call today?
I think, considering that everybody's a business owner, I think the best advice that I can give is, having not been a business owner myself, is it's not just about a moral imperative or about business risk. It's a mix of both, and both are very, very real. Everybody has an interaction with disability at some point in their life. I never expected that I would, and I have a very close personal friend. His name's Greg. He was a U.S. Army Ranger for more than 20 years. He made through, I think it was 18 deployments overseas, and mostly in one piece. On his 21st year of service, he managed to flip a three-wheeler while training people how to drive them and crush his entire left hand. He couldn't use his whole left arm for more than a year. He had tons of surgeries. And this was a man who was a commando his whole life, suddenly can't use his whole arm for a year. That is somebody who's disabled. Now, that's a temporary disability. Almost everybody on earth will experience a long-term temporary disability at some point, whether it's a broken leg, broken arm, something like that. And it's important to remember that it's not just the blind person that you think about standard that has a disability. It's a very, very big community of people, and it's also a lot of disposable income. There's a statistic, it's almost $500 billion, the total disposable income of people with disabilities and their families in the U.S.
So there's an opportunity to help people, there's an opportunity to grow your business, and there's an opportunity to reduce the risk of liability from these lawsuits.
Absolutely. Yes.
Cool. Excellent. Well, I think that covers it for our group here. I see some people that have posted that they want us to install a trial on their website, so we will do that. Again, we've made this Zoom here, we've recorded it, so we will be sending out a link to that. So if you didn't get a chance to finish up or you want to share this with somebody on your team, we'll be happy to do that. Rafi, I want to say thank you for your time today. We have Accessability on our website. We've been using that for a few weeks. I'm thankful that we have it. It's just an extra layer of protection and certainly helps for, inviting other people into our website that may not have been able to communicate or engage with us in the past. So I appreciate your time today, and I certainly will be available if you have some questions for me. If I can't answer them, I will share the email with Rafi and we'll get some answers to you. So I appreciate everybody's time today. And Rafi, thank you for sharing your knowledge about accessibility, and I hope everybody has a great day.
Thank you, Ken. You too.
Take care. Bye.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.